Every child of the 1980s knows the Ferrari Testarossa was automotive royalty. Along with the Lamborghini Countach 5000 QV and the Porsche 959. Fast, muscular, and impossibly wide, the Testarossa was pure Italian stallion. 40 years have passed since the Ferrari first landed, and it's a moment worth celebrating. But to understand how it came to be, requires a look at what came before. A trio of Italians, Giugiaro, Gandini, and Fioravanti, all in their late 20s, were redefining how cars looked. In just a few years, Lamborghini had swapped the Coke bottle Miura for the origami Countach. Arch-rival Ferrari, too, had an appetite for change. It's a given, though, that while Enzo was around, the rationale behind new road car decisions would, almost without exception, be driven by the results of Scuderia Ferrari, the brand's racing arm. So when the prancing horse replaced its front-engine 365 GT B4 Daytona with the mid-engine 365 GT4 Berlinetta Boxer, it was in response, albeit a delayed one, to the Marque's front-engine racers losing out to mid-engined opposition. Revealed at the 1971 Turin Motor Show, the Berlinetta Boxer was the first Ferrari-badged road car to feature an engine mounted behind the driver. Earlier 206 GT and 246 GT and GTS models wore Dino badges. Although branded a Boxer and flat in layout, the twin-cam powerplant was in fact a 180 degrees V12. Bearing the internal code F102A, it had a swept volume of 4,390 cubic centimeters. Launched in production form in 1973, right at the start of the oil crisis, initial sales of the Berlinetta Boxer were understandably slow. Come 1976, though, demand had increased, and Ferrari seized the opportunity to debut a much improved, more snappily named successor, the 512 Berlinetta Boxer. Visual changes hinted strongly at fixes, and the shape of exhaust cooling ducts ahead of the rear wheel arches, a new, heavily louved engine cover, and the addition of a chin spoiler up front. Ferrari also addressed criticism of the 365 GT4 Berlinetta Boxer's peaky power delivery by fitting a new version of the flat 12 F102B. An increase in capacity of more than half a liter, to 4,943 cubic centimeters, allowed the motor to deliver similar power at lower revolutions, while the added torque improved drivability. Ferrari continued to develop the engine, leading to the introduction of fuel injection for the 512 Berlinetta Boxer injection model launched in 1981. Despite all the engineering revisions, two major issues had not been solved. The car did not meet the safety and emissions regulations of the increasingly important U.S. market, and its inherent heating problem was never satisfactorily overcome. So by 1984, the world was ready for a new Berlinetta Boxer. What it got was an absolute sensation. No longer named Berlinetta Boxer, it instead revived a glorious name from its past, one that made direct reference to the Italian racing red paintwork of its cam covers, Testarossa. Ferrari's new flagship was launched in Paris on October 2, 1984. Who could forget the iconic publicity shot of the car parked sideways inside Paris's Lido, where, once the lights had been turned off, the car appeared from on high on a giant platform as the only lit object in the room. A new Ferrari is always an event, but seeing this one emerge from the relative darkness for the first time was unreal. The following day, the Testarossa took pride of place on the Ferrari stand at the Paris Motor Show. Owners and fans of the Boxer series cars were no doubt pleased that in essence at least the concept had not changed much. It was still a low-slung, Pininfarina designed, two-seater Berlinetta powered by a flat 12 motor mounted directly behind the driver. Visually, though, the car represented significant shifts in style from the sharp-nosed 70s wedge profile of its predecessor to a more substantial silhouette. It had filled out in every aspect. Up front, the Testarossa presented a rounder, far deeper, lift-reducing chin, while at the rear, full-width horizontal slats sat in front of rectangular tail light units. This was already a huge departure for Ferrari, but the award for the most distinctive new styling feature went to the deep side strakes that started close to the leading edge of the doors and swelled outwards before blending into dramatically wide rear wings. How wide? 1976 mm, nearly 150 mm broader than the 512 Berlinetta Boxer. The reason for the car's increased girth was a result of an engineering decision to double the radiator count, as well as to move the entire cooling system from the front of the car to new positions either side of the engine. This was done to ensure the Testarossa met one of its most crucial engineering targets, which was to eliminate the heating problems that had plagued its predecessor. Further benefits of repositioning the radiators, besides cooling the engine more efficiently, were to avoid hot water lines passing beneath the cockpit and overheating it, to boost the aerodynamics, and to increase the front boot space. Design work on the exterior styling of the Testarossa was overseen by Leonardo Fioravanti, who had already been responsible for a string of great Ferraris, including the Daytona and Berlinetta Boxer. Fioravanti's design team was composed of Ian Cameron, Guido Campoli, Diego Arena, and Emanuele Nicosia, whose initial concept was chosen for development. The final car was a triumph. Not traditionally beautiful. Few cars of the 1980s could claim to be that, but rather as a mix of Wall Street excess, European race car pedigree, and fair degree of Italian glamour. Apparently, the Testarossa's signature side strakes were only added for those markets where massive inlet openings were outlawed. Although the strakes also appeared as far less prominent details on the Mondial models, they were never destined to become permanent fixtures in the Ferrari design landscape. Also quickly discarded was the strange decision to fit just a single side mirror, mounted high up on the A-pillar. A revised model wearing two low-mounted mirrors was shown at Geneva in 1986. Another design oddity was the asymmetric inlet in the lower front spoiler. This distinctive feature directed cool air towards the air conditioning unit's condenser. Further areas targeted for improvement over the outgoing 512 Berlinetta Boxer included ensuring that the newcomer met all U.S. market regulations, displayed demonstrably better drivability, handling, traction, and grip, and delivered more power. To that end, the Testarossa was fitted with a completely redesigned development of the 180 degrees V12, the F113A. While the cubic capacity remained unchanged, the motor now featured 4 valves per cylinder, ran cleaner, and produced 385 brake horsepower at 6,300 RPM and 362 pounds-ft of torque at 4,500 RPM. Incorporating a few elements from the Formula One team's notebook, it made use of a light alloy block and cylinder heads, steel for the inlet valves, pneumonic steel for the exhaust valves, and a Nicosil coating for the pistons and aluminium cylinder liners. Valve timing was driven via cogged Goodyear belts, while Bosch's Cagetronic system managed fuel injection. Despite the increase in complexity, overall engine mass was down by more than 20 kilograms, a fine reward for the efforts of the engine department overseen by Nicola Materazzi. A system of 2 scavenge pumps, 1 pressure pump and an oil reservoir provided lubrication for the dry sump engine, which, as before, was mounted longitudinally in unit with a 5-speed transmission. A 1-inch larger dual-plate clutch handled the additional power and torque. A tubular steel chassis, suspended via double unequal-length wishbones, coil springs, telescopic dampers, and anti-roll bars all around, incorporated a detachable subframe for the engine. Although unassisted, reasonably quick steering offered what Ferrari called great maneuverability, despite running on wide for the time 225 front and 255 rear VR16 Goodyear rubber. A set of even wider Michelins was also available. Ventilated disc brakes, with 4-pot calipers, on all 4 wheels provided sufficient stopping power. 40 years ago, 0 to 60 miles per hour in 5.2 seconds was definitely what you'd call exciting, as was the 181 miles per hour top speed. Described as the 300 kilometers per hour living room, the Testarossa's leather-lined cabin offered a perfectly judged mix of sporty elegance and comfort. This was one very fast Gran Turismo that was always meant to be driven long distances. Both the seats and the steering wheel could be adjusted, while the compact drivetrain allowed additional luggage space behind the occupants. The list of comfort features comprised air conditioning, powered windows, central locking, and electric operation of that early, strange, single-side mirror. The Testarossa captured imagination like few other cars of its time, perfectly at ease as an icon of popular culture thanks to starring roles in countless films, music videos, computer games, and TV shows. By the time the heavily revised 512 TR arrived, Ferrari had shifted almost 7,200 red heads, making the model by far the most desirable supercar of its era. The numbers don't lie. Ironically, that meant it has taken nearly 4 decades for the car's value in classic terms to be properly appreciated. Thank you for the attention and have a nice day.